Welcome physically to the PROMS meeting in Baveno, and my best wishes also to those who are connected with us. We have many people connected. Really welcome to all of you also to this meeting of the PROMS. I think it's really a very great day today because first, we are back in person, at least some of us here involved in the PROMS Initiative, and also because we have already had some preliminary introduction to the topic that we will address today in PROMS by what happened with the previous activity of the MS Data Alliance. For those who were not able to attend, I think that the essential message of the previous meeting was, in fact, that we should really do our best in order to involve patients to contribute to the determination of the assessment of what happened to a person with MS and how to use this type of information at the best in combination maybe with other type of information in order to take decisions about the management of the person with MS. And here is really what we would like to achieve with the PROMS Initiative, jointly effort of the International Federation of Multiple Sclerosis and the European Charcot Foundation. I think that the discussion of today will give us the opportunity from one side to see where we are with the evolution of the project PROMS and where we go. And I think both are really fundamental points. A lot of progress, as you will see, have been already achieved, but our ambition is really to try to reach, which is our target, that is really to give a value to the voice of a person with MS. Having said that, I would like to ask the co-chair of PROMS, Professor the Pierre Baneke, to join here me in the introduction of this a very important meeting. Per?
Thank you, Giancarlo. Yes, a few words from me. As MSIF, I mean the global umbrella for people with MS and their organizations, we of course advocate for people with MS. We represent them in many ways globally to the WHO. We campaign for many things, access to treatments. After all, if you can't get treatments, what's the use of all the research that's being done? And of course, we know the way to find the people affected by MS around the world. Not perfect, but broader than Europe, broader than North America, trying to unite it. And in earlier meetings, we've spoken about the role, for example, in being able to unite both people with MS and researchers, like in the project with the Data Alliance about COVID and uniting the data on that. But we can speak for people with MS, but we aren't people with MS, and PROMS go to the core. It is getting the voice and the input and the data from the people with MS directly. And we don't do that. We can be an intermediary, but we don't do that. So I'd like to ask Helga Weiland, the chair of the engagement coordination team of the PROMS project, and it's the engagement with people with MS around the world team, that Helga co-chairs together with Emma Gray, the Deputy Head of Research of the UK MS Society, for Helga to open this session formally. Helga.
Thank you very much. Oh, there we go. Okay, good day to you, and thank you for being with us at this PROMS Global Initiative Plenary Meeting 2022. It gives me great pleasure to open this meeting. It is a privilege to witness and participate in the development of this initiative that places the patient at the center. the research, knowledge, medication, and cares available to people with MS has increased exponentially over the last 20 years. Personally, as a person with MS, I'm grateful that I live in these times. As you know, MS is not kind. With this initiative, MS is taken out of the laboratories and microscopes and placed into the hands of the people with and that are affected by MS. Do not misunderstand me, MS belongs under the microscope too. But now it has been given a voice, and that voice is one of the person with MS that deals with the fears, the fumbling fingers, and the cognitive challenges, to mention just a few, because there are far too many for me to remember right now. This initiative takes into consideration what is important to people with MS as to what they consider to be a good quality of life. This initiative asks the uncomfortable questions and finds the answers that will make patient care all about what the patient would need. It will provide clinicians with the lived experience answers that they're looking for in order to treat the condition effectively. This is the second year that the engagement coordination team has played a major role in the initiative. We hope that you will find our contributions worthwhile. We, the ECT members, and people with MS are very proud to be given a voice in this global initiative. We hope to continue to add value of our lived experience to the learned knowledge of multiple sclerosis with you. I wish you a warm welcome, declare this meeting open, and I'm sure that we look forward to all the contributions of the people involved in the PROMS Global Initiative plenary meeting today.
Thank you so much, Helga. It's time now to really move to activity. I would like to ask the two chairpersons of the steering committee, Paola Zaratin from the Italian National MS Society and Foundation, and Patrick Vermersch from University of Lille, just to join. And just a couple of notes before. For those who are connected by web, if you want to arise question, please use the QR code that is already in your hands. Also, those who are here, if they don't want to go to the microphone because they are too tired, maybe, you can use your QR code. You can just take the QR code from the projection here. But also what is really relevant is that you may really also contribute to the discussion voting when requested, just again using the QR code. So again, thank you so much. Patrick, it's up to you.
Thank you, Giancarlo. Indeed, I'm very proud to be part of this initiative because I think it will be very important for the quality of life of our patients. So I think it's great to be part and also to co-chair the steering committee with Paola. Maybe let me back to the origins of the initiative, jointly led and coordinated by the Multiple Sclerosis International Federation and the European Charcot Foundation, with the Italian MS Society acting as lead agency for and behalf of the global MS-IF movement. I think it's important to precise that point. So maybe meeting the challenge. Uncovering the hidden part of the MS icebergs calls for a shift from patient-centric to science with and of patient input. And maybe based also on the recent ECTRIMS meeting, I think everybody in the MS community is agree that it's a high priority for our patients. Among these different efforts, PROMS believes that capturing the diversity of people with MS, experiential knowledge, and make it scientifically relevant for all the other stakeholders will be instrumental to enable to have an holistic approach for prognosis, prevent, and maybe to improve the treatment of disease progression. And at the end, to improve the quality of life of the patients. Maybe also uncovering the hidden part of the iceberg means that we recognize the unrecognized disability progression for most of the MS patients. In a recent review from Lublin and colleagues, maybe the contribution of relapse-related worsening, but also the progression independent of relapse activities, so-called PIRA, contribute to the disability progression. And we know that PIRA occurs very early, even in pediatric MS, as you have seen recently at the ECTRIMS meeting, and probably becomes more and more important, and the prominent driver of disability progression, as we have seen in many recently published trials evaluating high efficacy treatments. So rapidly, our missions maximize the impact of science with and of patient input on the healthcare and quality of life of people living with MS, and represent a unified view of patient-related outcomes for MS to people living by MS, healthcare providers, regulatory agencies, and also healthcare technology assessment agencies. So you see a very large program for us. So now I will give the microphone to Paola. Paola is, as you know, probably the pillar or the looter of the initiative. Thank you, Paola.
Too kind, Patrick, and good evening. And good morning, good afternoon for those who are following the meeting remotely. So I'd like to add a few slides that are going to provide to introduce you to the PROMS Initiative for those that are not familiar with the initiative, especially the one connected remotely, but also to provide you some keywords building also on the previous section. In fact, I'd like to inform people that are connected remotely. We have a very important section on MS Data Alliance Initiative. So provide some keywords that might be bring insight during the discussion later today. So let me start with the two important aspects. So science with patient input rely on innovative framework to engage patients. So this is patient engagement is not stand-alone strategy, but rely on multi-stakeholder participatory governance that can enable the other stakeholders to appreciate the value of patient input. So patients, I would say even more than patient organization, are playing an important role to show the how to multi-stakeholder governance and patient engagement, also in line with the responsible research innovation principle of European Community. And PROMS is building its strategy on this concept. The second one is power of the design of patient input relied on the quality of data. We heard in the previous section, in the previous presentation today, how important is data and quality of data. And among patient-generated data, patient-reported outcome represent unique opportunity to measure impact of research, care, and treatment on outcome that matter most to patients. And we cannot do good science of patient input without doing a good and scientific science with patient input. So a lot of progress we have heard today cannot be have content of validity, as we discussed previously, if we don't invest in science with patient input. So this is why, to fulfill its mission, the PROMS Initiative recognizes the importance to develop a framework to guide effective participatory governance. PROMS is gathering more than 60 representatives from about 5 stakeholder categories, and core to the participatory governance of PROMS is people affected by MS engagement coordination team. We heard from Helga before the importance of this governance body. People living with MS, thanks to this new governance body, are taking care to inform the scientific strategy, especially to ensure representative and inclusivity, as we are going to hear later today from the roundtable discussion. This governance body has been built, has been inspired by a European project named Multi-Act. I don't have time to go through the name of the 60 stakeholders involved in this initiative, but just to give you an idea of how many clinicians, researchers, industry representatives, patient organizations are offering their time to discuss this important topic, and sooner or later they would like to see the return of this engagement, especially and in particular also patients. So what have been doing the member of PROM they have been investigating the PROMs from different perspectives, from research to healthcare, trying to understand whether we need new PROMs, to understand whether we can use existing PROMs in clinical practice and in care, and more importantly, and we heard before how important this approach is, trying to enable not only active but also passive monitoring. But more important, and we discussed today how this is relevant, the main goal of PROMS stakeholder is ensuring that people with MS experiential knowledge is represented in the development of core data set for MS in PROMS. So this is a major goal. Starting from the strategic direction of this initiative, this is a strategic direction that has been defined with people affected by MS. They are asking that people with MS are engaged in providing PROMs that give a picture of the status today and over time, and changes over time. And this is important aspects. We cannot measure just one functional domain at a given time. So we need to measure changes in a passive active monitoring, in an holistic and comprehensive approach and personalized approach too. And this hopefully will help us to improve prognosis, prevent progression, and improve quality of life for people affected by MS. So far, this initiative in the first phase focus on understanding the global landscape of PROMS for MS, answering questions: which outcome matter most to people affected by MS? What do we know about the use of PROMS in clinical care? What else tool and technology already exist? Are PROMS used to influence policy for MS healthcare? And more importantly, we are giving content of validity to the impact of participatory governance, wider collaboration, established partnership, and rising awareness. So this meeting today, you with us, all together, and future consultation also with many of the organizations that we have that has presented today, we'll have to decide, we'll have to select what are the initiatives PROMS initiative that can really add the greatest value and have a biggest impact for people affected by MS, and I would say for the other stakeholders. So the question for you and for the people that are following us remotely is, can we select, what are the initiatives we can select after this preparatory phase that will give greatest value and have biggest impact? And one of the major lesson learned across working group is this concept of representativeness. And I like to share with you what we mean for representative. We need an effort to meet representative targets for an engagement that is distinct from the statistical sampling. And it focuses in identify individuals with similar experiential knowledge of living with the disease. So it's a different concept of representativeness. is a concept that will help us to select a sufficient number and type of people in engagement activity to ensure that those engaged can speak on behalf of the target population, and is about who and how many people affected by MS will indeed represent the broader target patient population. And ensuring representative will also mean to measure not only PROMS, but also patient-reported experiential measure that capture what they think about the healthcare that they are receiving, but also patient preference information, capturing the value that patient place on aspect of medical device that, as we heard this morning, is very important. So altogether, this will help us to capture the overall experiential knowledge and to enable integrated care solution for multiple sclerosis, but also behind. And this is our agenda for today. We will hear about the barrier and current limit in PROMS collection and use, and we'll then move to the challenge of the patient perspective, and we will have a keynote speech on equity, diversity, and inclusion in PROMS data collection, and then a roundtable discussion to gather patient perspective. And in the last two sections, we are going to hear about activity, PROMS activity that we believe can already bring insight into the future agenda of PROMS. And we have decided to ask and to include as discussant industry representative, because we believe and we learned together with them that the representative, ensuring representative is going to be key to enable PROMS uptake from research to healthcare.